YouTube. Good night and welcome to Mindful Life 351. I am your host, Nathan Springer. Thank you for being here. It is presently the 22nd of February. February is nearly done. Look at that. The second month in the year is nearly to an end already. And the year is trudging along at a consistent pace, I have a question. Ask away, Christy Faith Williams. I'm answering questions. It's Thursday for those of you inside of the live. If you're wondering, what are we doing here? Well, we talk about current issues and all of that good stuff. And on a Thursday, there is no direct topic. We don't pull up per se any articles. What we're doing is just discussing what's inside of the live. You can join and actually have a discussion over on TikTok is where you join. Other than that, feel free to ask a question, say something. Double tap the screen over there on TikTok. That's how you hit that like button and send the notification out there. You can hit that like button on Facebook and also on YouTube, where we are streaming 3 live streams currently, and please do hit that like button. It really does help. What is your take on the China-America World War III? Christy Faith Williams asks. I don't know what I would summarize my take as. I don't necessarily think all of those countries want a world war. What's the Thucydides, I think is the name of it, the Thucydides trap, where basically anytime you have a rising power looking to overtake another power, a war is nearly inevitable. And what we have currently is China is attempting to rise in their global standing, and the United States already holds that position of basically global top supremacy, and I don't think they want to leave that position. So as China pushes more and the US attempts to retain that position, I do think that we may find some unique cases popping up. Palestine war, you understand that just beating the other person by raw firepower isn't enough. A lot of the present wars are kind of public relations war, an internet war, if you will. And considering that the app that I'm using primarily here, this one, TikTok, is run by a Chinese company which may have links to the Chinese Communist Party, and they have theories about what this app may be doing to our culture here in the West. Well, there's that. Also, there's the side where lots of Chinese nationals are currently entering the United States through their southern border. I believe it was something like 1,300 or something entered for years, and then within the last year or two, something like 30,000 or something like that, and they are buying up land all over in the United States. So combine those two, you wonder what might be happening on mainland United States there. I don't know for sure, but I guess we will find out. Blessings from the island where you can take gas from the sea to fill your car now. Well, if your car is a diesel engine. Thank you for these lives. I really appreciate it. You're welcome. I appreciate that you appreciate it. Your appreciation is appreciated. But yeah, that's my take on that China-America World War. That's why, if you look, since the Second World War, the top global powers generally don't fight each other. There may be lots of proxy wars, but fighting each other isn't exactly an ideal option for them. Fighting each other would almost always be you losing some. It's much better if you could pay for some poor country to fight another poor country, and those two poor countries fight on your behalf and all the deaths happen there. That works out much better for the wealthy ones, you know? I don't have to die. My children don't have to die. We get the poor people to die out, and we're fine here. Thanks so much. Really have something going for yourself. I can tell you put effort. Appreciate it. US don't need to fight anyone now. One sanction and basically one without a bullet or bomb. But here's the problem with that sanction business, RL. Sanction is a punishment with depreciating returns. The more people you sanction, the less effective it becomes. You see, the idea is you want it to be that the entire world is playing with you, and when you sanction somebody, they are the only person on the outside. But if you start to sanction so many people that there's basically half of the world on the outside, then it's not like someone is left out. It's like they have two options, and you're losing this unipolar world, the world that we lived in for quite some time, where there was one main power, one pole, and we're going into a multipolar world where there are other main powers, multiple powers around the world that people could gravitate to, and China is doing exactly that. Good night, Ronnie.
Interesting topic. Interesting topic. You finished talk?
Yeah, for the while.
Good night. Because you know I'm so interested in that thing.
How you feel about war? You're not fighting no war?
I am to fight.
You're a lover, not a fighter out here. You're about love, not fighting.
It's not that I don't so I actually am sorry. I like I don't want I don't
Wait, did you just say like wars? Ronnie, what are you talking about? What do you mean you like wars? What's that? Ronnie, people make you out there? You're cleaning alligators and birds for TV? You and the oil spill crew, Ronnie?
I went on, but I can't take I can't take too much of it.
But Ronnie, if it's so hard for you to take, imagine what it's like for the wildlife.
I know. I'm real. Listen, I'm real sorry, but I am superior. Hello.
Who you saying hello to, Ronnie?
I'm saying hello to the host. Hello. Oh gosh, push on the next side, mom. Double block and she. Hello. Oh, she is so sweet. Oh my God, she waving.
You giving her a sweet eye? Give her a little sweet eye.
Oh, she's the sweetest.
Say hi, people.
Aaron spending money on this app, Papa, you. Papa. Oh, she's too sweet. But that is not for me. Especially because, when she goes away, I will give her stories.
Good night, positive radiation. What's going on, man?
Idea. I want to say a special good night to Ronnie's world. We can burn it every time.
Big up your whole self.
Just like research, talking about. Just like do your research.
All right. Oh, Trini Hotep, what's going on, bro? What's going on? What's going on? What's the good? You're getting a call for what, Ronnie? I sorry. I sorry again. In Tobago business there. Sorry. Hey, I see the Guyana the Guyana VP talking about investigation launched by The Guyana VP says they launch an investigation into the spill. It seems like the information coming out is that the oil was headed for some Guyana power plant or something like that.
That is what they say.
Eh?
I didn't investigate it.
Well, the power plant is a state company, so he's saying that the company would make all of their records available to the media and to the public and all of that. So I guess you'll be able to see which company was responsible for procuring the fuel, and it was known. It seems now that it is known. Sorry, that the vessel was docked in Venezuela previously. So it's almost surely some sanctioned fuel leaking out in our waters there. I saw somewhere someone said, I think I read in the article something like 36,000 barrels was the amount they said in tow. I don't know if it dropped off some in Aruba, if it's all of that currently sitting off Tobago's coast.
Ouch.
Yeah.
That is so sad. Like, the whole thing is really sad because not even like it was our doing. And not to say like it was even our serious acts that caused. That is this part. So we're going to pay for something that we have no to it, at least allegedly yet. At least surface-wise yet, because I mean, I'm still concerned about how such a large vessel was in our.
I think some of those things are runny. Like something I said back even with the divers incident and all of that. Some of these things run like this all the time. Like if you know all right, if you're familiar with an industry and you know the inner workings of the industry, you may know how unsafe people work 90% of the time. So on construction sites, no one wears a harness in Trinidad and Tobago. They aren't strapping all of their scaffolding. They aren't doing everything necessary. Farmers out there are spraying their crops barefooted and barefaced and spraying powerful chemicals. That's a common thing. Many of those things are very normal. But if something happens, like a disaster strikes or some kind of accident or something befalls the person, then all of a sudden the insane practice that was actually much more commonplace than you thought would come to the fore. So it might be that we have those illicit ghost ships running through our waters on a regular basis, because if it is that Guyana powers their plant with this diesel, and this might be a regular mission that there is this contraband fuel running up and down, then it's kind of, we turn a blind eye to that. We know that's what they do, but nobody don't really study that. We know it's illegal, but nobody studies that until something like this happens.
Some of these jobs you kind of have, I don't want to say if it's NDAs, but certain jobs you can't really speak about certain things, because I could tell you for the aviation industry, if you had to let certain secrets out at the back, that work. So questions asked, if you had to highlight, for example, some of the security risk, and it happened to end up, you could with immediate effect based on some of the documents you have to sign on to. So just to work in the space, there are certain regulatory documents that will, and they won't even say you're saying it to help the problem. I could highlight it to my superiors and they don't act on it. I could highlight it to the superiors about my superiors, no action. But if I go public with it, as soon as I go public with it, it's immediate termination. Okay? They're saying, come a risk watcher to national security, and you're highlighting security breaches on a global scale. The pretty talk.
This is why the blue thing is so important, because you're supposed to be able to anonymously or at least safely give information to, I'm not saying come on social media and talk. I find that's the most useless thing. But if you are concerned about security or whatever, we have a go to and highlight this, that would investigate it, but that will not so much so,
The strange thing is, Ronnie, you say that social media is the most useless thing you could do. I actually kind of disagree. Now, I understand the sentiment and I kind of agree with the sentiment to an extent that many people use social media as a buffer and an excuse to do nothing. And the social media, they think that, I really made a difference here by making a post saying XYZ, and that's doing nothing. It makes no sense. But
No, I talk about information, serious information, first hand on things. Carrying it to social media is useless.
not necessarily, because carrying it to social media is bringing it to the masses. Bringing something to the masses is bringing something to the power base, because most, at least Western countries, are run by, supposedly, the masses, by the opinion and views of the masses. So if you could taint or sway the view of the masses through publishing some information, then you can make a difference. That's why the United States is still up to this day trying to get their hands on this WikiLeaks guy, Assange, Julian Assange. That's why they want him. The guy never broke a US law, technically. He wasn't even a US citizen. I believe he's Australian. But they want him because he had a website, WikiLeaks, where they would publish that kind of whistleblower information. And they want him basically dead. They're trying to get him basically dead just for that. So the release and publicizing of the information is in and of itself something. If it wasn't for TikTok, this oil spill may not have gotten this much attention. Fact, positive radiation.
Do people quite not understand that social media is still media? Like, it's still media at the point. People think that social media is just, entertainment, and show a portion of it is, but just like TV programming have entertainment, it also have media, right? It's media, right? Like, casting is media at the end of the day, so you can put it on TikTok, Instagram, it's going to reach millions and millions of people. Like, that's how it goes, right? So conventional media or not is still media at the end of the day. And look how far this oil spill talk reaches. This oil spill talk reach into hands of people that probably even listen to try to be good news on a regular. Like, they don't even understand the inner workings of the parliament, but they hear what the oil spill do.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, social media it puts it like that regard though. About, and this is my thing. I'm not saying to go to like a news or a social media talking about investigative, but not
the official channels. The official channels.
It should have an official person that could take serious matters that I cannot. I do, right? And if I see something I find it real fishy, my boss not taking me, the head not taking me on, right? And this I find is a real troubling matter. Why go in and I just go and come on social media and say I should be able to vote a special investigative. I found this information. There's not, well, now in the absence of that, I guess social media is fine, but it doesn't really bring much difference.
You see, Ronnie, I agree. And in our whistleblower legislation, that that official body would have connections to the officials. And then who is to say that they would be above the influence for something like whistleblowers? Whistleblowing is a difficult thing. It ends up with the who will guard the guards kind of scenario. Like, okay, who do I carry the whistleblowing information to? The person I carry it to must have enough authority that they could do something about it. That means they have to be a powerful person in society. Now, if you put this person as a powerful person in society and they are in charge of whistleblowing, if someone has to blow the whistle on them, how will they do that? Or if they are a powerful person in society, what could very likely happen, as happens in our society, is they will just be a member of the oligarchy. Because to some extent, if you are familiar with who the judges are and who their husbands are or wives are and who the senior counsels are, and you know the names and relations and husband and wife and brother and sister and uncle, and you recognize that it's a kind of close-knit group of people at the top there. It's a small club and we aren't in it kind of thing. And if they are going to hire someone to be at the top of whistleblowing, the whistleblowing commission, that person may just be another one of the speaker's husband, or a president husband, or a minister wife, or something like that, or somebody's neighbor. You know, that was one of the stories recently. But partner, we ain't.
Yeah. But you see, that thing, right? And that is why several people have used social media as a whistleblowing medium, right? You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, as and Tobago, the land of the committees, you know what I'm saying? The land of create a committee in order to investigate something. And then, being a whistleblower in Trinidad and Tobago, in terms of, like, going through official channels, yeah, you can start a joint select committee for this, and this talk can happen for 2 years, and they can get paid, and everybody can get paid, and probably can be running and split up in money, and what your whistleblowing for you, and the committee investigating 2 years plus. Nothing, you know what I'm saying? So social media, for a lot of people, social media is the place to post a story.
But does it work? Yeah, to some extent it does. If you look at stories that went viral, many people have lost their jobs positively and negatively from things going viral on social media. Social media has far-reaching implications. Listen, if remember, a certain man in a certain room said he could only take 2 pulls and that's all he could take. That was kind of the start of him no longer being a minister back then, you know. Even up till now, that haunts him. Now, granted, in that party in Trinidad and Tobago, nobody cares. He was brought back. Ronnie, you say nothing happened. You don't know that he lost his job, right? You know he lost his job back then. Huh?
How much more millions of dollars, allegedly?
Well, I don't know anything about that, but you can't say nothing happened because that's not true.
And he's now, sorry.
Okay, yes, he came back. Yes, he came back. But you still cannot say that nothing happened. And the thing is, many of like that incident, even with that incident, the truth is, what he was doing, you're not sure even about the legality of it, even if it was him, what the legal ramifications might be for something like that. And he still got in trouble because of that. Can you imagine if someone could come out with some talk about some politician, sexual impropriety? That got another one, that got 2 of the partnership members, their kite was IO'd because of that. And it wasn't that the accusations of sexual impropriety reached to a prosecution level where they were found guilty. It was the court of public opinion, and that was enough. So these things do work. They do have an effect. Do you know of an incident generally where you see a politician make a viral illegal stink and they just walk out of it unscathed? It's not something that generally happens.
But Nathan, I don't say court of public opinion, I say court of public prosecution. Because when they make a decision, they don't have to come back.
Correct.
Court could be all the evidence could line up the fact that they already have that perception of you. They did. Basically, they want to write you. I think even as we on this, there's a level of distrust that the people have for authority. There's a level of distrust even for conventional media, social media. See the fact that everybody have videos and could record.
leanings and all that. You see, they talk about journalism yesterday. If we take a look at Western journalism, right, it has never not been biased. And it probably has been more biased, like, before than it is now. And it still hasn't changed from being biased. The political leaning is more heavy today than everything. Like, really, the first set of journalists in America was writing about it. It was literal politicians having control over the media. You know, so Fox News, CNN, I'm saying TV6.
Yeah,
and
you
is being speed.
100% right. All the idea, the lie that was sold to a lot of us in the 80s and 90s is that we created the utopia world that we looked at in Seventh Heaven and Touched by an Angel, and you know, those nice, beautiful millennial childhood shows, beautiful shows, wonderful, had you feeling like you were living a dream. And with that kind of thinking, you had the feeling now that everything runs perfectly. When I sit here and I'm looking at the news, CNN is telling me all the facts that I need to know, and BBC is telling me all the facts that I need to know about anything I miss on CNN, and it's all true. The reality is that was never the case. It was always the case that news and media and journalism had its bias. What's happening now is a lot of that bias is being revealed, and it's being revealed in an obvious manner. And to some extent, I think some old school media are being shocked by it. The riots of 2020, when CNN went out and called some of the riots mostly peaceful because it was in their political interest, and people were binge watching videos of live streamers walking through the riots and watching these people burn down cities for 100 days in a row, and then CNN comes out with its Chiron at the bottom and they report all properly dressed with the camera, and we are here at a mostly peaceful but fiery protest, and people watch you like you are ridiculous because they can see the other side now. And that's what I think is happening now. That's not necessarily all a positive thing, because what could happen? You're getting so many different views of an incident. You could assume, like, okay, assume rightly that the media is lying to me. All right. But that doesn't tell you who is telling the truth. The internet now is a fire hose of information, and we're trying to get a drink of truth. Can you drink with that fire hose blaring a water stream big like your face at how much ever 100 psi at your face? Can you get even a drink of water, or would you drown in conspiracies? It's part of the difficulty in the modern environment, media environment. Yeah, Ronnie.
That's the thing. I wasn't saying media versus media. That's all not.
Yeah, I know.
The point was taken. I understand what you're saying, and my problem with going to media as well is, like you say, you taint the situations. Plenty of people can't even get a fair and honest trial because the social media. Like, look at the Johnny Depp situation. They deemed them guilty before he even had a case. You understand? Before he had a trial to go and present his case and things like that. Now, I understand good versus bad. Is it out? Does it out or whatever? But that's just how I feel about social media and media and the whole. I have chosen happiness, so I no longer follow any kind of media at all. I listen to music and I laugh and smile all day.
I don't know if that's a genie we could put back in the bottle though. Positive, you're saying something, bro?
Yeah, I'll add a couple of things into the mix. I'm using this term called, this is why controlling the narrative has become so critical in different organizations. One. Two, when a political organization could hold a media appreciation function and invite media houses, and media houses actually turn up in support of it, you have the whole public perception of whatever you produce is going to look totally, how to put it, skewed. It's not say you had a press conference and they were invited, or you had an event. You literally had a media appreciation event. So going forward, you showing them appreciation, they're going to continue. If you feeding them, they're going to support you. Who pays the piper, calls the tune? And I still want to know, I bring this up a couple lives ago, what is the difference between a journalist and a bacchanalist? That is why I want to get clear.
I think that's a semantic difference, that they could very well be the same thing. It's according to what people call themselves also. And it's difficult to tell somebody they aren't a journalist if they call themselves a journalist. And getting it pinned down as to the exact definition to divide it, good luck with that. But with the invite to the media appreciation thing, that's going the kind of American method where they have the White House Correspondents' Dinner, where the White House has a meeting, a dinner with much of the press staff that usually rub shoulders inside of the White House. Now, I don't necessarily have a problem with that in its professional capacity, allowing people to be more familiar with each other and they're doing a job. But as I said, I think it was last night I mentioned that, but I say it regularly. As I said, the President Obama, Barack Hussein Obama, did the world an injustice in the relationship that was created between him and the media. The media saw him as their friend, they were on his side, so they were there to shape and craft the narrative to make sure that the public understands what Obama really means. That's what their job is. Their job isn't to find out what Obama is saying and doing and tell the population. No. Their job is to explain to the population what the president really means. It's crafting a narrative. So you're right, positive radiation. That's why crafting a narrative becomes so important. That's why nearly every political party in modern times, one of their main jobs is crafting a narrative. You look at the wars, all of the current wars, it looks like even more important than bombing is crafting and supporting the narrative that is created. Israel, Gaza. Who is genocidal? Who is the terrorist? Who is the one with the real homeland? Who has the babies dying? Who has the real sad cases? Ukraine, Russia. Who is the real evil one? Who is the Nazi? Who is the oppressor? Who is the invader? Who is the defender? Who is defending people of Russian heritage from Ukrainian influence and Western? Everyone is attempting to craft a narrative to make themselves the hero in the story. Al Jazeera and CNN.
Yeah, that's it, right? Because I think the powerful people understand that controlling narrative kind of sways the general population to a certain degree, right? Like that is what it is, right? This whole, if we look at the Israel-Gaza situation, who really propels the narrative to their direction gets the most support? And obviously we know support gathers power. It just is what it is. Support something the most, you get some power, and then that is all, right? So hey, it's like that's literally what a cool is anyway, right? A cool is kind of gathering support on your particular side, right? Now, so sometimes maybe support and you realize that you're getting caught in trying to control the narrative, so obviously, but that's just it. You try to gather as much control over the narrative as possible and gather more people to your side, and that's just it. And to me, I say, listen, the press obviously supposed to be the mouthpiece of the people, but that doesn't necessarily be true anyway. You know what I'm saying? The piece of the people be press and they have political leanings as well, because it's obviously people. It's like, come on, man. This is why you have what kind of thing. This is why you have different companies now. Saying different small businesses, companies that try to sell these skills.
And that's why I like the modern twist on journalism and the press, where we see so many unique outlets and small outlets and small little stations jumping up there. And okay, some of them may be propagandists, yes, fact, that's true, but I am okay with a propagandist for this side being there, as long as we could have a propagandist for the next side right there with them, and let's evaluate it like that. I rather that. Let's have the free market of ideas in that way, instead of limiting it as It was at one point in time. Rawson Warren asked, what's the difference between a whistleblower and a traitor? That's a good question. Now, I'd say there's a part of intent inside there. Like if you're talking full technicality, I think there's a side of intent. A traitor has to intend to betray you in order for them to be a traitor, really and truly. But if you're talking about beside intent, by effect, a whistleblower can be a traitor. YouTube going already? Yes, YouTube is up and running. Yeah, a whistleblower can be a traitor too. It's possible. Someone could be blowing the whistle thinking that they're going to do something positive with the information that they found out, and in the long run it actually hurts their in-group and they betray their in-group with that. Now, here's how that could even go to a further extent with the whistleblower versus traitor kind of idea. What if my in-group is evil? If I am in a gang and I am a whistleblower for the gang, I am a traitor to the gang also. The price is for sale for the highest bidder. Not only the case, but partially the case. That's partially the case. Now, when you look at it that the journalists and media companies are for-profit companies, they have to make money, then you understand there's a kind of perverse incentive inside there where for them, whatever pays them the most would be something that they go down the line of, and that could help facilitate the bacchanalist part that Positive Radiation was asking about. Remember, they're trying to make money. And in order for them to make money, they basically have to attract the most eyes. And the sad truth and reality of the matter is that clearest, cleanest, most sound factual information is not the most entertaining media. If I sit here and all I do is read news articles straight, I will not be the most viewed person on TikTok. That's just fact. Because that's not necessarily the most entertaining thing. So, if you are a media outlet, you have to make money by drawing eyes through entertainment. But the product you're selling, which is news information about current events, may not always be the most exciting and entertaining. How do you balance that? If you have an article that is really good information, but you don't think many eyes would care to see it, versus an article that is rubbish, garbage, nonsense information. You're basically telling a popcorn fluff story, but you know it's going to attract eyes. Which one would you focus more on as a news outlet? And this is how we have, I'm seeing you positive, just let me finish this point. This is how we have papers like tabloids and those gossip magazines being so prevalent, because people like that. It's what the customers want. I remember the case where the teacher died during the carnival season, fell off the cliff edge, and that ran stories in newspapers for a week straight. Was that some kind of news that the public of Trinidad and Tobago really would gain some benefit from finding out exactly every intimate detail of? Not really, but it's something that's salacious enough that it would pique the entertainment value and they would make more money. Yeah, positive.
When it comes to this, I had a thing against the media, and I chose working in media simply because I had it. So I got the opportunity to spend 3 months at a company in the Tobago space here to work and see how the media would operate. And to be very, very honest with you, I could understand why they do how they do, because in order for papers to sell, you had to have a headline to attract eyes that will cause the person to want to get into your papers. And we as a population are creating that problem. Because if we are drawn to negativity and that is what making the money, that will happen. That Trinidad artists made that very same statement. I sing 2 positive songs and 3 gunman tune, and only gunman tune making money.
Yeah.
And I had to live. So as our people, we really forward to how we present it. Because I could present a same news story to you in 5 different ways. If I sit and I speak one tone, monotone, you would all of a sudden get bored. and you will lose interest. If I speak like the Prime Minister, you say, yeah, he's young, we're talking, boy, and that alone, say, me not get everything that I say, but they might hear a piece of the presentation. However, if I go down and speak in a GD voice, I say, but what kind of madman thing going on here, boy? So sometimes we have to decide how we package in the news. Look at this thing we have on TikTok from this guy, Calypso Knight, Extempo News. Extempo News, picking up. Still people saying, why would they use that in a normal newscast? Because the styling is unique, it's different. It's presenting exactly what's happening from different perspectives.
I agree, and we'd have that online, and that's a good thing online. Like when people look at innovations in the online space, and the first suggestion is, why don't we take that and plug it into old media? I sometimes shake my head at that. It's like we invented the internal combustion engine, and we say, oh, why don't we replace a cow's heart with an internal combustion engine? No, we don't use the horse. Oh, I said cow. We replace a horse's heart with an internal combustion engine. No, we don't use the horse anymore. We get cars now. Things change. And change isn't always a bad thing. Sometimes it's necessary, and I think some of that is necessary in the media space too. And people are Anika Best, and people are doing some of those changes and figuring out some of those things. But as you said, it has to do with the audience too. The audience fuels it. The audience says, okay, if I'm doing this, I like reading news. I'm going to be reading news and looking at interesting stuff either way. But if I was doing this every night, and every night two people came out, it was just me, Trini Hotep, and Ronnie every now and again, I may not have been on live 351 by now. So if people are interested enough in this that they pay attention to it, they actually decide what they're going to increase and see more of. Oh, Hotep.
It's true, and I'm saying, like, somebody for the content now. You know what I'm saying? No, I obviously I don't do this kind of wild kind of content anymore. But in terms of somebody who talks about society and culture and news, yeah, I had to be kind of entertaining with it, you know what I'm saying? And for a big company has to pay workers and social costs, things have to run entertainment at the same time, right? They can't sell your news 24/7. It's not going to work for a company. But here's the thing too, like the balancing act of it all. I think people also had to watch out for the trap now. People who just like to read salacious titles of articles and stuff and never read the article because you know some media outlets just know a nice little title or a caption would grab the attention of the person that people article for damn sakes. So that's a lot too we need to be aware of, because obviously they're trying to get as much engagement as possible in order to get pay as possible. So people have to watch out for the fact that, yo, that article, read the article, bro. Just because it say man caught sleeping with goat, read the article.
And you might recognize that the goat was in a pen outside and the man was in a bedroom inside, and they were both asleep at the same time, and that's how the newspaper framed it. And the thing is, what makes it so horrible, and I read news every day, constantly I'm reading articles, so I see it regularly. What makes it so horrible is sometimes you only find that information out 3/4 way through the article. It's not even high up in the article. The real information is buried. And I think when I see somebody doing something like that, I understand you don't have the true spirit of journalism. Your intent here is not to make the information more accessible to a wider audience. Your intent is actually to obfuscate and hide the information. That's like I said already with the Obama and the media, how they treated him. From the time as a journalist, you are more interested in tempering the information so that the public handles it well. That's not your job. Your job is to present the information to the public.
I saw something recently, yeah? And it happened to me previously, and when it happened recently, I felt it. I did a debate at the National Parliament. I made a particular quote. I was in a grey suit, a pink stripe tie. My colleague in a navy blue. That statement. His statement with mine and said, I made this statement. And I'm like, if you are doing this to youth parliamentarians or to sitting parliamentarians, till recently we heard somebody saying the chief felt disrespected. You listen to the article, was a total, the actual press conference was a total different story. Till we be creating unnecessary rifts among the leaders by misquoting them. And I'm like, does that benefit?
Bro, that one aggravates me so much, and the newspapers do that always. So they would ask a question, the leader, so they ask a question, I'm making up this scenario, but it's an invented scenario around this oil spill thing. They ask the Tobago leader, do you think that Trinidad and Tobago is doing enough to assist Tobago in this disaster? And he says, well, I'm not sure about all that Trinidad has on its plate right now, but I could say from a Tobago point of view, any more help would always be appreciated. He didn't say anything directly, he just says more help would be appreciated. They write a headline, Tobago needs more help from Trinidad, demands Tobago leader. And then they go to the Trinidad leader and ask him a question, not based on what the Tobago leader said, but based on the headline about what the Tobago leader said. So they go and they ask the Prime Minister, Dr. Rowley, I saw in yesterday's newspaper headline had that the Tobago leader demanded more help from Trinidad and Tobago. Do you have any comment on his demands? And Dr. Rowley, in his usual manner, if you say something like that, very likely he isn't going to respond very kindly and softly to that. You may say something harsh. Trinidad is doing all that it can, and if the goodly Tobago leader thinks that he can do better, he is free to run in the general election and become Prime Minister. And they write a headline, Prime Minister answers back, accuses Chief Secretary of gunning at his job. And if you actually read the articles, you're like, how are they building this insane conversation? But they're building it out of headlines. I saw someone did something similar to the VP in Guyana. They were trying to get the VP in Guyana to say something negative with Trinidad in it. But he did not say something like that. But then I watched online, someone of these insane online media posts, they made a headline alleging that the VP said something negative against Trinidad. That's insanity. That's insanity. And if you carry that headline to Trini, get the Trini's reaction, then carry the headline of that to Guyanese, get their and you create this imaginary tension that could legitimately cause division. I think to some extent that's why the United States is in the position they are in. Their divisions are increasing, and I think it's increasing because of the effect of the media. The media keeps doing things like that. If you were paying attention to the media, so some people might wonder, how come some Trini black guy is not a hater of Trump? Because I paid attention to the media a little more than the average person. And for that period of time during Trump's presidency, it is insane the amount of deception they attempted to pull. They literally went out of their way to paint a narrative that was not exactly true.
Nathan, and sometimes say quite clearly, do not misquote me. Allow me to be politically clear. Sometimes even at the same press conference, the leaders would say, don't misquote. And they would say the correct statements, and you would still purposefully go and create this. And I'm like, why are you feel we don't read? You know, we listen to the whole thing. And I'm telling people, this short clip call that we have, we gonna get in trouble because I'm gonna run into you because you listen to the whole thing, isn't that clip? Get that over these bacchanalists are calling themselves journalists.
You're right. And that increases the division in the country. And the thing is, That's never a positive thing for the country. Like in the United States, they are teetering on the edge in certain areas of legitimate civil war. And it won't be the first time. And if that is as a consequence of the media, imagine your own media drags you into a bloody war. And in Trinidad and Tobago, we already have a pretty bad case of racial disunity around election times. If our media is very careless about what they say and how they say it around election times, they could fuel some real dirty reactions. Media. So there is some responsibility to the media there. I would have never guessed someone all the way in Trinidad paying attention to the issues with Trump. Well, I pay attention to general news all around, so it was something I was doing, and it was very entertaining too. Back then, the entire thing was entertaining. You watch if you watch a speech from Trump and then watch the headlines after, you're like, the guy says, I am not talking about the neo-Nazis and the KKK. I'm talking about these other people. I condemn those people completely. But there were fine people on the other on the other side. They wipe out that and he says the KKK and the neo-Nazis are fine people. In the exact quote, the sentence before clarifies that. They cut that off and leave the second piece and put that forward. And then this present US president launched his campaign using that false news, saying that was the reason he decided to re-enter politics after he heard Trump talk about fine people when referring to neo-Nazis. I'm like, what kind of insane make-believe world are we living in here? And if you have political systems being created on narratives that are fluff, how would this system be accurate? How could we properly diagnose problems and get solutions if we don't have an accurate image or an accurate picture of the terrain we are in? So we want to know, okay, how we bought some hectares of land and we want to develop it for agriculture. We want to do some drainage and some irrigation. So we want to know how the topography of the land, the undulations, where is high, where is low, where would the water channel. Okay. You ask someone to, design a map for me of the area. The person comes and draws something off the top of their head that has no resemblance to your land. How can you use that map to create anything for your land when the map does not paint an accurate picture? And that's the problem when we have these inaccurate pictures painted by the media. How are we going to write laws if the laws are written based on things that aren't true? The US example, as this is where we found ourselves a bit, where if you ask Democrats or a black person, especially in the United States, how many unarmed black people are murdered by, not murdered, but killed by the police per year, they are going to say something a couple thousand times, percentage times, more than the actual number. Thousands of times more. How are you going to then craft policies based on this impression people have that is thousands of times off the accurate real life scenario? You're obviously going to get bad laws. Obviously. Good question, Rawson Warren. Good question.
Assumption to believe that the way that portrays some of crime and criminality in this country is having a minute impact on our society as a whole?
Not minute at all. And there's a balance there, you know. So it is possible for us to have had 600 murders in the year and people go around the country oblivious and feeling very safe. If the media stops reporting murders, the country could start to feel very safe. Unless you witness the murder or it's a family member of yours, you don't necessarily know what's going on. And you could get an impression that it's safe. You could get an impression that it's safe. So yes, the media does have an effect on that. Now, the question to ask yourself there is, what impression do you want? Do you want the media to attempt to craft your impression, or do you want the media to just give you the information? And even in just giving you the information, there's an infinite amount of information that can be given, so nonetheless, they still have to choose which information to give you. So do you think it's a positive thing for the media to craft their information in such a way to not scare the public? Or do you think that it's the media's job to try to get the public to see it in the most raw, maybe even exaggerated to some extent, nature of it, because they want a solution? That if we want someone to do something to solve it, let's make sure we have them seeing it as much as possible. It's a question.
This is where we had a conversation and look for the balance, because I'm now thinking of the Jamaican system. Jamaica and Trinidad, in my view, similar on crime, but Jamaica is much larger on tourism based on how they push the content. It's because the media themselves sees the value in tourism. So internally, if you take place with Jamaica, when you actually do go to the Jamaican places, that person's walking to the areas comfortable. So it was Bahamas recently. You had this big press over them because since claim that they were sexually assaulted or whatever.
Lies. Don't do Bahamas that, eh? No. That come out as fact. Them two tanties, two mothers, leave their husband in Kentucky, gone over Bahamas for British Broadcasting channel. British Broadcasting Channel. Got the British Broadcasting Channel and regretted it after, apparently, and went back saying abuse. Nah, me ain't taking that. Don't do my Bahamian brothers that.
It's not about, you know, it have apparently there is travel insurance. If you are assaulted, can claim on your insurance. That happens all the time in Tobago. They make a report. Once you have the report, you carry the insurance. And most times, as told to me by a beach bum, that's what it's called. Them guys and them on the beach, they'll be with you for the whole 2 weeks vacation. The night, like let me say 2 nights before they leave, they're going in the hospital or they're going in the station and say, it's rape. And you get home, they get a report, they go the flight and they go pay, and they carry that to the insurance. You have this reputation now as some big rapist. Sorry. And you don't show up to court by the, well, obviously they don't show up to court, they have to show up to court, but they claiming back there, that's vacation rebate.
Yeah, but Nathan, so we decide, Jackie, but why wanted to focus on is the response from the Bahamian people?
Yeah.
Realize they did any investigations and they responded. And see, it's a couple challenge the travel advisories. Even the one with Jamaica as well, too, because you had two is good, and they said, "Buy comfortable in Jamaica." And they would literally tell you, but the travel advisory is just economics or geopolitics, or whatever they call it. Because I'm here and I'm safe. We saw it for Carnival. Foreigners came to Trinidad and had a good time for Carnival. Unless there were incidents that we didn't hear about. Generally, it's considered a safe Carnival. So why issue a travel advisory? We catch where you're coming from.
The thing is,
Get to respond.
but the thing is also, like with Jamaica, even though the violence may be similar on a certain level, not only is it with the media and their reporting that they have a tourism focus, in how they deal with the violence, there's also a tourism focus. So the violence is much more contained in specific geographic areas, and there are certain areas that you would almost never see anything untoward happen. The problem is that's not the case in Trinidad and Tobago. Well, in Trinidad and Tobago, yes, in Trinidad and Tobago, Tobago getting heated also, and that creates a problem. That creates the problem, at least the impression of the problem. But you're right to some extent. Even with the level of violence that we know does exist here, it's not like it's totally random, and it's not like you hear a great deal of tourists and foreigners being targeted and advantaged or criminalized in the country. It's not exactly like that. So yeah, I do believe the travel advisory has some politics to play in it. It's power play. It's a power play. We can do it, so we do it. Like as if that travel advisory is necessary in that way. I don't think it is.
You see, social media are challenging conventional because the conventional media would put out what the government would say to put out. The vloggers go to the actual island, the vloggers would share their experience. Because they now say, but look at the hour, and I sit on the avenue and walk to the people and talk and laugh.
And look, I went up Laventil and get a tattoo.
Yeah, and most of the time, everybody was shocked about it. It shows you the reality of impact. A country and a
You're going up Laventil for a tattoo though?
I'm not sure that I haven't made such a decision. I have to consider that and speak to the Lord.
Hey. Hey, Yana. I read home, Gil. Do you think? Do you get your adventure? But well, I'm not looking for a tattoo. I'm not looking for a tattoo. I'll put it that way. I have no interest in getting a tattoo. None. I've gone to Laventil before. I have gone, but I'm not going to go into just a random corner of Laventil that I don't know. I'm familiar with the fact that they, in certain areas up on that side, there are borders, and I am not familiar with where all those borders are.
She didn't go. She was like, I'm going to Laventil and walk through Laventil by herself. She was with people. To be mad, to just be like, I have to go. I have to go any. To be mad, to just be, you know.
But Ronnie, it's not anywhere. You could go, I feeling to go Valsine and drive through Valsine by yourself. You could go, I feeling to go Lanch Park and drive through Lanch Park by yourself. You could go walking through Federation Park and watch all of the grand houses and that, and you are unbothered. Good night. Don't bad talk the ends. I mean, I'm not bad talking the ends, you know. I am just saying the ends. Let me put it this way, Sylvan. The ends has a much more active neighborhood watch group.
The ends kind of sticky. That's how it is now.
BIL, yeah, BIL, MIL.
South is also love. South is also love. South side is the best side. But yeah, because South side don't have them kind of but they are saying that.
What are you talking about? They didn't have a murder in San Fernando. How many murders in San Fernando over the last week? I hear some guy from Princestown get murdered or something like that. What you talking about? South is love. Southland heated too.
Anyway. Not as easy. Easy than the West Corridor, but you know what I'm saying? You can do it where you want.
restrict your I think certain places that kind of sticky. That's what you're surrounded. Problem what you're surrounded. What you're surrounded of me, I would take my tail to no past best or street to feel like anyway. I'm sorry to tell you. Pass no.
I
like my life.
I mean, if I have something to do and I know somebody up there, yeah, I'm going. I don't have a problem with that. But just on a whim, on a kicks, off a kicks, nah, man. The reason why tourism is so low in Trinidad, there is no marketing. I don't know about no marketing, but I do think that our marketing isn't what it could be. I think Trinidad could be very, very, very well marketed, much better than it's currently marketed. There is a lot to do here. There is a lot that tourists would be attracted to in the country. But to some extent, it's because we don't need it. They say necessity is the mother of invention. We don't have to be inventive with our marketing for tourism because we don't need it. The vast majority of people in Trinidad and Tobago are relatively gainfully employed, enough work to be well fed and comfortable enough that they don't have to go and hunt tourist dollars out there. So the government doesn't lean into it, and no private organization would generally lean in that much to it. The local mass media quite biased. While the truth is important, it is rather twisted. What way do you think the local mass media is biased in? Biased to who or against who? I have never seen a commercial for Trinidad and Tobago on the TV across here. I have seen Jamaica, all of the islands advertising, never seen Trinidad.
I wouldn't say we do. I think the oil and gas money just cushioning me so we didn't really diversify. Because no, but look at Dubai. Dubai has oil and gas would do thriving in tourism.
There's also a dictatorship.
I have a point there.
I like the tone of that positive. Well, yeah, you have a point there.
Dubai is under anarchy. Dictatorship is anarchy.
Autocracy.
Yeah, it's autocracy, right? So Dubai is a very much a tourist spot. It don't matter if it's under a key or not. Say because England is legitimately institutional as well. You know what I'm saying? People to England. So
England isn't the same as Dubai, eh? If we're being clear.
England, but it's Dubai. Did not say that about. I continue. Sorry, I continue.
Right, but right. So Dubai being a monarchy doesn't really stop the from immigrating there, visiting there to live all the luxurious monthly stays. You know what I'm saying? So people do it all the time, and Dubai does have a good level of promotion against it, but Dubai don't really need the promotion, you know? It's like the fact that people come and spend the good dollars because what is better than sweet SD?
But Dubai promotes itself, Dubai advertise and has been advertising itself from about 2005-6 when Dubai really started that. Dubai was on advertising and marketing steroids. Every corner you turn, there's some kind of video about Dubai and what they're doing, and the Burj Khalifa and the islands and the Whirl Islands and the this and the that and the Dubai Prince with his gold Audi and the this and supercar blondies out in Dubai showing you all of those supercars and Habibi come to Dubai. You think all of those things are coincidental? That's advertising. They are advertising.
I would say the UAE.
Okay, so the reason I brought that up, that they are dictator, they are the autocrat.
Mm-hmm.
Right? International attempted anything. If they attempt to bring up and to create thing in Trinidad, somebody's going to protest. That is my land. I not get land. Cannot do this or they cannot do that or they everything. Nothing in Trinidad to be fully. Trying to build a big airport, that's my land. Trying to build a to the airport, no, that's my land. Can't do that. Every single thing in Trinidad and Tobago cannot be some form of pushback. In those places, there is no such thing as pushback. They get it done because they want it done. When I'm ready, I say, you know what, we want to build them big towers there. Okay, he don't want to move, that's on him. That is it.
Well, they allege. Go ahead.
That's much better. That's just the fact of the matter. When you have freedom and you want everybody the decision making and everybody have a say and and maybe free will, and you have free will and free will. The corners can't progress as rapidly as you would like to. And then also you have political where every 5 or 10 years a political party comes in and they mash up everything the past party. There's no continuity. So okay, they had the Branara Stadium that don't and they say now we're not building that, we're not finishing that. It might be take about 15 years to build and finish. Them kind of thing. That is the kind of prices you have to pay in a
Correct.
free world.
Correct. There were allegations you're talking about. They could just do as they want. There were allegations that in Qatar for the preparation for the World Cup, when people died on site, they just buried you there and carried on with work. You know, those were the allegations. Someone asked, you're jumping in right there, Positive. I just want to get this comment HYMC made. Bias towards the lower classes, they quite often show lower classes as bad persons. I would say part of that is because quite often lower classes are bad persons. And oftentimes the lower classes and the bad things they do are the easiest to see, the most observable. So it's not, I don't think it's a bias. I don't find the media in Trinidad and Tobago generally is a bias against the lower class. Reality is biased against the lower class. That's why it's called a lower class. No one wants to be in the lower class. There's a bias against the lower class by reality. You have less money. You have less resources. You have less access to opportunity. Reality has a bias against you. So if you're looking for a class of people where you would find more desperate people and you'd find a correlation of desperation and low morality, which is going to make a criminal, you would find more of that in the lower classes. I would presume, wouldn't you? And if you think of the world in how it works as a cycle, if someone does more of what we consider to be the right things, they behave more honestly, they have better discipline, they have better self-control, so they don't go making children willy-nilly, they get a solid partner, then they make a child, then that child is grown up in a nice stable home, wouldn't that person have a higher chance of being higher class? So wouldn't you generally find, so everything else being equal, wouldn't it be generally expected to find that people who do more of the bad things end up in the lower classes? So if the media reports on that, it would look like that's a bias, but it's not. It's not like there is this plethora of corner blocks inside Valsine that TV6 refuses to report on, you know? Not really. It just is not there. Full acknowledgement to statistics, but I would argue the solution to boosting tourism is fixing the publication of crime. So stop publicizing crime to fix tourism. I don't think that's the solution to crime. I think marketing is more important than the publication of crime, because crime, I don't think publicizing crime deters many tourists. If they're interested in something, I don't think that deters many tourists. Go ahead there, Positive.
Yeah, I think the thing I've learned democracy over last year and couple months. You can't please everybody in a democracy. That is the reality. There's a vector for doing something at some point in that. Sometimes you just have to get it in. Vex just lost. Sometimes years after they would appreciate. You did. Just enjoy and follow the current procedures in doing it because you will always have opposition. We have a flawed ideology in this country. And this is one of the few things I'm passionate about. Where we see opposition as being enemies. According to Basdi Upandi, is my political enemy. And that if you did, so somebody, we see opposition as being so wrong. Not only with somebody saying, hey Nathan, why do you twist your beard so often? Not because they hate you, they just want to know. Who knows? They probably want to twist their beard often too. They probably want this is the secret to getting into good. So we need to stop seeing opposition and stop seeing questions as an attack. And we need to begin to see it as, oh, you're just inquiring, no problem. This is the reason why. And it also has to do with the tone of how you ask some of these questions. If I say, hey, why twisting up your beard so fast? So the problem. I say, hey, bro, I already said the system them better than thing. I want to know where's the secret, but no. Why does that? So yeah, and you get totally different. So we need to change our ideology, position. Position and government could agree, as well as disagree. And we see it in our society, a man getting through because he disagree with foolishness. Come on. Let me teach our children. It's a problem. I disagree with something I had to do, and it's not an attack on him.
Well, it means that, you know, the challenge of it. That's just how it is, right? Talk about, because, you know, Western world, since we kind of live in a democracy, we believe that anything outside of it, see, monarchy or autocracy, you know, it's inherently bad now, but some autocracies kind of right, you know what I'm saying, the hereditary, tribal, whatever you want to call it, different types of autocracy, they're fairly good and tell the people no to build this because it's better for the people. The people say, okay, things, man.
You see, I like what you're saying there in a Hotep. Many people in the West have the assumption that the only sensible governance that could happen is democracy, where everybody gets an equal say in something. They will go to some of those more tribal, old school cultural, traditional cultures, and they would be shocked. No, you don't have a say. Shut up.
No, but here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. I regularly watch the history of Africa. And listen, as much as it obviously was tribal, heavily Africa, didn't mean that they didn't have some form, type of democracy per se to say that people had a vote. Of course, right? But at the end of the day, tribal leader, he came with the say, but he listened to the people. But the thing that people quite understand is my vote had a count because I have feeling. I know how you can get progression somewhat in society. Like if you take a look at some countries that country kind of in terms of autocratic type of man, see that they progress quite fast, rapidly per se, because they have the leadership where it don't change for one, and the leaders firmly have a grip of the country in terms of, so we're going to point the country in this direction, pivoting, changing, and it's like, come on, Dubai have a ministry of possibilities to further the value of. They get to that, you know why? Because it's a sheepdog.
And the thing is, Trini Hotep, as you talk about with autocratic and autocracies, what is happening right now in El Salvador is kind of autocratic. Now, granted, he got the authority through the democratic process, but he is doing a kind of strong-handed, nearly autocratic style of leadership. And they are seeing progress with it. The reality is, I believe, if you want to see rapid progress in nearly any place, you would basically need that kind of autocratic leader. So Trinidad and Tobago had, well, some people may not like the direction of the progress, but we did have some, quite a bit of progress in our first 30 years or so of being a nation, because we were ruled by one man. Eric Williams was nearly the dictator of Trinidad for that period of time, some might say. And he acted to some extent like that. He could have made decisions that were not as easily questioned. When you have decisions that are easily questioned, it's much harder to do this whole leadership business. Now, for me, I like the idea of leaders you could question when we have societies like the ones we have, where we're trying to all have these people with different beliefs all work together in one society. Then for me to have one ultimate leader and what he says goes, I can't like that. I would rather myself be the leader of my home and you have as little authority over me as possible. But I understand if you're talking about on a countrywide basis, having maximum progress. That's one of the ways to do it. Ronnie, you're going to say something?
I just want to respond to what Positive was saying about the opposition. We do have to disagree with the opposition or something like that. You said, if I am in charge, right, and you are the opposition, and I yield to your suggestion, then I am saying that you better than me. So better you. That's why they don't yield. That's why they don't agree.
I disagree with that though, Ronnie. And well, what Positive did say was that my opposition is not necessarily my enemy. And that's true what Positive is saying there. But I disagree on the yielding to them is saying that they could do it better. Yielding to them is saying that I know how to make the decision. So a project manager, the person you hire as the project manager on your project, would not be the best plumber, would not be the best electrician. He may not even be an engineer, but he knows how to get all of them to do their best. So if I can engage ideas that are best from all sectors of society, then I am proving that I am the best person suited to lead. If I am unable to look at an idea from someone else because they are not from my group on its veracity, on its independent veracity, then I'm proving that I am not the kind of person with the behavior for proper leadership. I would allow my country to sink. I would allow whatever organization I'm leading to sink just for the sake of my pride.
Okay. Give a funny example because you know something. So that person is on your team. So it's like, okay, probably I understand what you're saying, and I don't disagree with what you're saying. I don't disagree with Sean is your enemy thing. I think you could disagree and still not be enemies. I think it's all well. At least the politics that we have today and in this country, if you're saying like you're basically saying that you can't do it. Like I can't do it, so I have to take what you telling me. I take your suggestion because
Not can't. Not can, and I think that's something that you could explain the magnanimity in that so easily, that you know we are of the view we don't have all the answers here, so we are of the view that we will take the best decisions and the best options from all sectors of society, even sectors that oppose us. To me, that's what government should be. It's not assumed that the PNM has all the skills needed to lead a country within the PNM party. Positive, you wanted to jump in?
Yes, I want to jump in. Simply because this is not breeding out politicians going forward. Because we have lost the true meaning of what a politician is. They're supposed to do. We allow the wrong thing to happen for so long that it has become normal to a lot of us. That is why we keep producing. I don't want to say waste of time. I don't want to use the terms, the derogatory terms, but substantial, inefficient. It's because we are encouraging the same nonsense over and over and over again. And there are some of the good ones in the back. But anytime you stand up and you take a different position, you pay the price for it. Because we have a population that has been cultured to accept nonsense. We have political organizations that thrives on the ignorance of a population. We have members, we have politicians that realize the public do read. So you could say the one thing on a platform today, go in the parliament and say the next thing tomorrow. And it have people out here who say, yeah, wait. Like, but Judge, you just said that thing yesterday, do we have you on video? Facebook memory. We got plenty politicians in this country. Watch and see what I say. Because, like, and I'm like, how we alone? Nothing is wrong. Conceding, nothing is wrong with saying you're wrong. If you only win me in an argument, I shall strong, I say, yeah, only kill already conceded. And what is wrong with that? If a husband and wife married, and they living in a house, and the husband made a floral decision, how they say, oh God, baby, I'm sorry now. I missed this time, you know. This time we go. Same thing in our class, a teacher made a post class, I'm sorry, I apologize. So we now creating a culture where no man is perfect, and we know man is a culture. So apologies will flow now. You know, I demand an apology, and people that get privileges committee and what kind of craziness. And that is what flowing right back now into the actions in the population. We seen it and it come right back down to crime, right back down to the media. So what's so wrong if you make a misreport or a misquote? You simply correct it in a follow-up. Fortunately, we do have wherever the population to apologize. So are we not creating that? Yeah. Are we so prideful as a people that we can't say I am human and humans are allowed to make mistakes? Is it why we don't have a restorative justice system? This is why we have a criminal universities and not correctional facilities?
Correct. I agree with pretty much everything you just said. All right, people, it's 11:10. I'm already yawning a bit here, so let's get our closing statements. I see Trini Hotep was saying something there. Jump in, bro. What were you going to say?
And I think that they're saying Trinidad and Tobago. When I talk about other countries that necessarily democracies, we had to take a look at the fact that these places' culture is kind of more, in a sense, it's very people just follow particular culture. Muslim being
Arab.
something Christian, Catholic, like in Salvador's case, most of the majority of the country is mestizo, so they would follow a Spanish type thing culture, you know what I'm saying? Dubai would follow a Muslim culture, Arab culture, so they get to be one track minded in terms of certain things run a certain way. That's why crime rate, I'm saying they could get certain policies in there. And so trying to leave it. Sorry. Right, but understand that a bunch of people, different places, different cultures, and it's going to be hard to get certain things, hard to get policy, hard to get this. Crime rate is going to be a hard thing. That's just the nature of America is a fundamental experiment when it comes to that. It's hard to get certain things going in because of this particular thing. Saying so, trying to up in terms of people. So we come for carnival and jama doesn't mean all of a sudden we're going to be of political mind. Crazy stuff.
Hey, look, Ria, boy. Positive, what's happening, bro?
Two quick statements. Firstly, we like too much a quick thing in this country. The average female don't like a quickie, so why we as a country going behind quickie? Some of these processes that we want to implement is gonna take long, it's gonna be hard. It wouldn't be so fast as we like, and we gotta be prepared to be in it for the long. New code for the year. Controversial statements triggers critical conversations. Right.
Good night, positive radiation. Good night, sir. Have a good night. No quickies. Yeah, Ronnie. What's up?
I just want to say I didn't get to talk about my topic, eh?
What you wanted to talk about, Ronnie?
I was gonna tell you, so the scenes.
About oil in the pool?
Yeah, but
You,
I don't know.
you here tomorrow or you have a drinking date?
Tomorrow travel.
Okay.
So I would like to see what I'm going to do.
All right. You do your thing. You do your thing.
Sad. Sorry, I was real good. I feel like I can get out. Sorry, it's like, I'll tell you too.
Mindful.
You too. Bye. You too.
Good night, Reeve. You now jumping, but I'll touch on the school stabbing over the vape. Nah, we'll talk about that tomorrow. Give her 5 minutes. All right, when I jump off of YouTube, she said. So, all right, that's all I have for now, folks. I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained. This has been the Mindful Life. I'm Nathan Spring. I'll see you guys again for the next Mindful Life show, which would be tomorrow evening, tomorrow night, 9 to 9:30 p.m. About there's the starting time. Until then.